I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling.
Welcome to the Elixir podcast, where we ask people from all walks of life and from around the world what their favourite poem is and why it's important to them, why or how it speaks to their heart. If you have a poem that you would like to share and would like to appear on the podcast, please contact me at helenwing@me.com. Hello and welcome again to the Elixir podcast, a podcast where people come and read a poem that means something to them. Today we're talking to Martyn, who's in New York. Hello, Martyn.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. We're very pleased to have you on the programme.
I'm pleased to be here.
So, Martyn, which is the poem that you would like to read to us?
The poem I'm going to read is I Carry Your Heart With Me. I Carry It In by Cummings.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see if you can get through this without crying. I was trying to read it earlier on today and I couldn't. Would you like to read it to us?
Yes, I'd love to. I Carry Your Heart With Me. I Carry It In by Cummings. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are, my world, my true. And it's you who are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart.
Oh, well, Martyn, that is truly gorgeous. Thank you for reading that to us.
Sure.
Could I ask you now why you chose that poem? Why is that poem important to you?
Yes, so I'm married for 33 years this year. No, that's not true. I'm with my partner 34 years this year. Her name is Neda. And some time ago, years ago, I found a Valentine's card that had the first line of this poem. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart, as the printed verbiage on the card. And it struck a chord with me. I didn't know the origin of the line, and I was aware of Cummings vaguely. I was aware of his sort of concrete poetry approach. I was aware of his typewriter as much as I was of his content. We all know how he does this wonderful play with layout on the page, and he's a bit of a refusenik with conventional grammar and syntax.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was struck by the notion of carrying one's beloved's heart in one's own heart, almost like luggage. And so I went and found out the poet, found out who wrote it. And ever since then, I've been very blessed to understand that someone has me in mind when he wrote it in 1952, even though I was yet to be born. because it's about portability. If you love someone, what he seems to be expressing here is wherever you are, whatever you're doing, that love can be a force to be with you. It can nourish you. It can keep you safe. It can help you experience the world wherever you might be. It's almost like a redoubling of human power, because I don't just have my heart. I have my lovely, I have my wife's heart with me all the time. You know, and I'm a migrant. I came to the United States in 1984 with nothing, and I am struck by another writer's observation of what it's like to be a migrant. Salman Rushdie spoke and wrote about rootlessness, and he describes the four roots that we all have that we lose when we become a migrant: place, language, culture, and community. And as a migrant, I'm very much tied in with the notion of portability, and I have to contain within me the sort of replacements of place, language, culture, and community. So I have to be. It's like a grab bag, like a go bag. Like I have to be ready to be on the balls of my feet and go whenever, wherever, because I've lost all of those roots. Right. Neda, with her lovely compassion, when we're together physically, I feel very rooted. She's given me so much. And so when we're apart, I carry her in my heart, right? So this is just like a clarion, loudspeaker version of my thinking about how I do that, how I carry her around with me. Currently, we have two homes. We're blessed to have found a home out of New York City where our residence has been for a long time. And we're slowly transitioning to this other place. Our work life and our private lives mean that just now, in this moment, we're sort of missing each other and like passing like ships in the night a lot. She's currently up there. I'm here in Brooklyn, and over the next couple of days, we're going to swap places because of our obligations for each of us in both places. But I carry her with me wherever I go.
She's
and
always
this poem, she's always with me. And this poem just, it's like, it's my blueprint for emotional safety and security. You know, it's great.
That's truly wonderful. I'm so moved by what you've been saying, Martyn. And I hope Neda knows that you've got her heart in your heart all of the time.
She does. She does.
That's really, really, truly wonderful.
We have a profound relationship. We both failed first time out the gate. We were both married before. Her for 10 years, me for 6 years. To other people, and it was they were mistakes. And when we first met, very, very quickly, like within 24 hours, I think we've talked about this. We both understood that, okay, this is right. This is the kismet that we had hoped for as younger people. And bruised and battered emotionally as we both were, we became each other's solace and each other's trusted companion ever since. So yes, she knows exactly that I love her in this manner, you know. And that you're the roots for each other, that you are each other's place, language, and community. Exactly, yes. And so for her, she was born in New York, but she was born of Dominican parents. Her parents had come from the Dominican Republic during a turmoil of a time politically in the late 50s. So she was raised by two migrants, and she intuits what it is to be me, because her loving parents, they let her know what that was. And so without translation, she understands me. She understands what she can give me to offer me succor. It's great.
But it's also one of the truths of being nomadic, actually, that in order to survive, there is no such thing as a lone nomad in the nomadic world, because you cannot survive on your own. You have to create community contact and sharing,
Yeah.
Otherwise you can't persist, if you like.
Yeah. And what we've done, because she lacked community and culture, and even though she was born and raised in New York and has lived here most of her life, she understood what it's like to be displaced, like her mum and dad. And clearly she didn't speak English until she went to school. So language was an addition for her. Like in other words, the notion of other, which I've now lived with for 40 years here in the States, that was her reality from the get-go. That was what she was born into. We didn't speak about this in the beginning of our relationship, but somehow it just was there.
And you recognized it in each other.
I think so.
I think what's so difficult for people who've always been rooted to understand is that when you change place for whatever reason, and you change your culture, your language, or your existence, or you've had it imposed upon you, what happens is that you gain this strange optionality. And it's not just your own optionality, it's other people's. Other people can decide whether or not you belong in their gang, if you like. Right. But also you also have that consciousness. You have to consciously take on or consciously retrench your sense of self, which is something that people who've always lived in the same place or always spoken just one language, they never have to do. They never have to question their belongingness, if you like. And True. It becomes so much more conscious, I guess, in people who are not like that. But it does make, by the sounds of it, your acts of belonging and your acts of love so much more enchanting and so much more exquisite, actually, that you're so aware of it. It's a bit like you say, your misstep with your first marriages, your second marriage is something that you know to be precious from the get-go,
True. There's another element to it as well in thinking about the concept of otherness. I'm fine being other. I don't want to be anything approaching American. I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm a happy British person living a British life in a foreign country. So I'm very comfortable with that. I'm much more comfortable with that than I would have been if I'd somehow assimilated fully. I think Neda's sense of otherness almost gave me permission to not chase after that, to not try and fit in at all, because she's mirroring my lack of fitting in. And I think we've both recognized over the years that we're supporting each other in our otherness and against the tide of cultural expectations here in the United States. We don't really participate in the sort of easily available cultural behaviors that the United States has brought to the world and has exported to just about every developed nation on the planet. We stand outside of that, I guess somewhat critical of it also, but more importantly, we don't participate. So the two of us together are supporting each other in our otherness and our separateness, and that's just great. I feel like I have as the Spanish word, I feel like I have a comadre in my life that is just like me, kind of.
That's really, really wonderful. And E. Cummings felt the same way. He was taken off to be an ambulance driver in
the
World War, and people got really upset with him that he was so friendly with all the French. And that he would make statements about how he couldn't hate Germans and so on. And he eventually was arrested and accused of espionage.
That's right.
And it was
the enormous room, right?
Yeah,
He wrote a book about it. Yeah.
exactly. And then really, I mean, he was incredibly young at the time. It was just that he seems to have grown up with a very strong sense of who he was, and that he didn't have to just buy the line, or that I don't think at that time, I don't think he realized he had to buy the line, otherwise he'd be in big trouble. He clearly thought about everything he was doing and thought about what he thought about each situation he was in, which
So
is
yeah, that's interesting. So I'm thinking about myself and what a contrast it is between my experience and his. I mean, he was born and raised in Cambridge, went to Harvard, like he was rooted, and then volunteered, as a lot of pacifists did, or a lot of smart, engaged pacifists did. He volunteered as an ambulance driver in the First World War, right? And that was the only time he was really out of his community, culture, language space. And what you just said is true. Somehow, all that rooted experience from Cambridge, Massachusetts, it must have made him very, I don't know, confident, and like to take a position that he did that resulted in his being imprisoned and vilified as a traitor or whatever. That's some hard stuff,
Yeah.
And I think he survived it because of where he come from and how rooted he was.
Yeah. But then for the rest of his life, he seems to have taken on a really comfortable position as an outsider. When he went to France,
Yeah.
he found his media. He spent a huge amount of time there.
Right. Yeah.
And I know this podcast isn't about me, but this is how very much I feel about being abroad as a linguist. I feel so much more myself when I'm in an alien world than I do when I'm in my place where I supposedly belong. And for me, I think it's more that I've got a very flimsy sense of self rather than a strong sense of self. I feel very easily colonized by my own country people, whereas I'm abroad, I am so aware of my separateness,
Oh,
So
that's interesting. Yeah. Maybe, okay. I like that notion. I often think, what kind of a person would I have been had I stayed where I was in the UK, right? I'm very aware that because of the influences of family and friends that are still all there, I absolutely would be a profoundly different person, I think, because of the influences of community and place and culture and language that I kind of, jettison over here and like cut ties kind of thing. So what you just said about almost knowing yourself and seeing yourself and feeling yourself more when you're in that other place. Yeah. How about that? Maybe there's an information, like you do a sort of hermetic thing where it's like, okay, no, I'm here. I've got my support mechanism, which is my wife, Neda, and my daughter, Flora, and I'm good. And I see myself quite clearly, perhaps because I'm the only dot on the domino, as it were.
Yeah, possibly. And also that's mark of your and my privilege. It's very different if you are a true migrant who's been forced to, they're running away from somewhere rather than running towards, or at least there's an ambivalence about that.
Yeah, no, if you're coming, either against your will or in a very willful way to, like you said, escape some horror or just the desire to improve things for you and your children, if that's your story as a migrant, it is a different version. And often what I've experienced when I've encountered people from other countries here in New York City, there's an embracing of the arrival space. They want to fit in. They want to adopt American mores, and they that's great. That's fine, because their impetus is completely different from mine. As you said, I stepped away voluntarily, almost like a test. Like I was doing something to myself by plopping myself in this different place. Yeah.
Martyn, it's been so interesting and so moving to listen to your story, your and Neda's story. I wonder whether you would mind reading this poem again now so that our listeners can hear it in the context of your love, actually.
Yes.
You express so beautifully.
Sure. Very happy to. Only this time, I will dedicate this reading to Neda.
Okay.
The poem is I Carry Your Heart With Me, I Carry It In by E. Cummings. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are, my world, my true. And it's you who are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart.
Wow. Thank you so much, Martyn.
You're welcome.
We are really grateful that you have shared your life experience with us. It's wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
If you're a regular listener and are enjoying the podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could hit the follow button on your podcast app. And if you have a moment, leave a review and a 5-star rating. It helps us tremendously to reach more and more listeners who could also be touched by guests' poems. That's hit follow, leave a review, and not 4, but a 5-star rating. This would give us just a little help that will make a great deal of difference. Remember, you can find the poems that feature in each episode on my website, helenwing.com. Thanks for listening.